Welcome, everyone, to Ladies' Number One Detective Agency, Clearing the Paranormal. This is season two, episode two. And today I'm joined by my co host, Bill Johnston, and co hosts, I should say, Bill Johnston and Janet Graham. Today is March 10th, 2025, and this is case number three, titled The Fallen Angel. This is a wild story about a woman who read a book about angels only to have this so called angel attach itself to her. But before we get going on the story, let's get Bill and Janet in here. Welcome, Bill. How are you today?
I'm good, Aimée. Thank you.
And Janet, welcome. How are you?
Hi, I'm fabulous. There's
Good.
no other way to be.
I know. Sorry, I just have to collect myself here. We were having a pretty good laugh there just before we got on the podcast. So,
On my behalf, I must say.
pardon me,
On my behalf.
on your behalf.
With you, not at you.
Exactly. We're just poking fun. This is a pretty unusual story. So last week I was facilitating a meeting and I received this voice message from a woman who was being attacked by an entity. It was pretty late when I got her message, so I just texted her back to let her know I'd give her a call the next day. And then she called me after she received the text and left me a message stating that she had not slept in weeks, about 10 minutes at a time, and they, whoever they were in her hair and her back. And she didn't know if she called this entity a she, had a needle or a nail, but it was being put in her back and she was in so much pain. So I was able to reach her the next day and got her story, and it was pretty wild, as I said. And she said that she had been given a book about angels, and this book outlined all the angels based on a person's birthday. The client had the name of the angel associated with her birthday, and then she either bought or was given another book about these angels. So she had done some research on this angel, called this angel in, and she said it happened about 2 months ago. And immediately she had this angel attach herself into her hair and her back. And then she said, "She never leaves me. I can no longer sleep and I'm in so much pain. Please help me." She said that she had had some priests come to the house and they talked to her. They threw out the books and told her that, people write these books, but weren't really thinking much about the people receiving the information in these books. But beyond that, they weren't really able to help her much. And then a friend of hers started to see what help they could get for her online. And they came across my website and had her call me. So, as she talked about what was happening, I assured her, as unusual as it was, the clearings we do should be able to transmute this angel, whatever this entity was, out. And I explained to her what we would be doing and asked her if I could have permission to consult with Janet. And she said yes. So I contacted Janet. So maybe, Janet, you can take it from here about what you were picking up about what was attacking her.
Well, it was odd really because I've never really picked up something like that. It was weird, but it felt like um it felt like it was all solid negative, but it was like whirling around her, and it had this weird looking instrument, and it looked almost like a needle, but it was kind of like a glass tube, and on the end of it there was a bunch of little needles, and it would like try to go into her back, into her spine. It was like trying to pull out some of her blood, her chromosomes, something that like that. They needed that for some kind of thing they were doing. I never did get what it was, but I felt like a fallen angel. I didn't feel good at all.
Mm-hmm.
And like an angel will do everything they can to make a person feel good, to help a person. This one wasn't helping. This one was just harming. It was all about harm.
Yeah, and do
So,
you and do you think maybe So here's another thought. I never even thought about this before, but maybe as she called that angel in, something else attached to that energy and came in.
Yeah,
Maybe it was
exactly.
never that angel. I don't know. What do you think?
Exactly. And maybe it was attached to the person that gave her the book.
Ah,
Okay, because very easily it could be attached to somebody else, and the attachment passes on to her when she's handed that because that woman came close to her, that woman touched her.
right.
So maybe she had this entity on her and not realizing that she had it,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was overwhelming because it was very heavy energy and just, oh, it just turns your stomach when you see that.
Well, and
And
I
it's
mean,
like,
you got very specifically, they wanted her blood, which
yeah,
was, I'll talk about that in a second. And then you said it was something unique in her blood and in her chromosomes. And
yeah.
when I told you what year she was born, you got that there were very few people um, left who were born in that era that had this special type of blood, and they were after that for something that they were doing
Well,
some
it's the chromosome in the blood.
right.
It was that chromosome. So they wanted that and they needed it for the work that they were doing. And it's something very nasty.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
mean, I did some research. I went back to that year and I
Uh-huh.
started looking up to see what they might be giving pregnant women at that time. Um, but if I had time, I would have gone to the library because Google right now, everything is so censored. I was having a really hard time getting anything really good. And so, as the listeners, you might be going, seriously, blood chromosomes, some energetic non-form being. How can this be a thing? But it actually is. And I heard of a case of someone who had disappeared in a national park, and they were actually, no one could find her, and then they eventually did, and she was dead. And during the time that she was missing, she was actually being held off by some off-world beings who had cloaked the whole area, so she couldn't be found because they wanted something in her blood. There was something special in her DNA that they wanted.
Wow.
So, and in her case, they actually were able to, the good, the good beings were able to rescue her soul before they were able to take over her. So that's the good part of the story. But the human physical part of her, they killed that part of her. So anyway,
Oh,
so after I talked to Janet, Bill and I did a clearing for her residence, and I got that it was just we have two types of clearings we do, and I just got our regular residential one. And I let her know that we had finished that, and she left me a message saying that it had slowed down but was not yet gone. And I told her I had another clearing that I was going to do following the one Bill and I did, and that this clearing should stop it cold. So I was so surprised when she called me back and she reported first that it had gotten really, really bad. She was getting super attacked. Um, Now, having said that, this will often happen, not to the extent that she reported it, but that's usually why we don't tell people when we're going to do the clearing because it's like they know we're coming for them and they start to act up really bad. So that part wasn't so shocking, but when she said it was coming back, I was like, wow, I'm at my wit's end. I really don't know what to do because these should work. They work every single time. Now, this is a very different type of situation, but when I think back to what's involved in the clearing, this should have been gone. And then to kind of compound everything, this was an elderly person. She had no computer. She had no access to any video or audio if I texted her or anything. So, any tools I would give her to protect herself, other than trying to explain to her how to do them, which was very difficult because there's she English is their second language, and also the concepts are so foreign to her. It was really, really hard to get a read on it. Anyway, so I called Janet again, um, and I said, you know what, Janet, this sounds so familiar to me, this whole book thing. I think I have the same book. So I ran down to my book collection, and sure enough, I had the exact same book. So I found the one for her birthday and I read it to Janet, and we were surprised. So it was like, I think Janet, you were saying it's like she called in the negative aspects of this angel, but it still felt like something else was attached to it. Anyway, so
Yeah,
this book,
exactly.
yeah, so this book that the way I got it was a man and a woman, husband and wife, had come to town and they had done a talk about angels, and their whole book was about it. And I bought the book from them. Anyway, so I decided to have Janet. I thought, okay, maybe if Janet actually talks to this woman, she'll be able to pick up more information about her. So I included the client and merged her in with our call. And Janet, maybe if you just want to talk a little bit more about what transpired there, if you remember.
Actually, I just don't even remember very much about it. It seems to like it turned into like a fog for me
Mhm.
because I was trying to listen so hard to what she was saying because her accent was so thick. And some of the phrases she was using just kind of threw me off a little bit. But I felt like that entity was still trying to hang on to her. It just was trying to hang on, and then it just needed one more. That's what I kept getting. One more, one more. But
Yeah,
it's just really different and really weird, and it's like it's like strings or elastics hanging on to her, like, and you guys were like pulling them off, and it just pulls and pulls, but there's residue that stays behind. And if it's almost like it was the residue that was still hanging on that needed to be cleared.
yeah,
Does
and I
that make
remember,
sense?
yeah, and yeah, I remember you saying that too. So,
Okay.
and then I think I said, I think I need Bill.
Exactly.
And you said, yes. So I sat there racking my brains because I'm like, okay, well, what? And I said to you which clearing I thought we should do. And you said, yep, that's it. And I went, okay, well, that's kind of odd, but okay, like I'll do it. It kind of tied into what, when I thought about it, kind of tied in. So Bill and I set it up with her, and I gave her a call and put Bill on speaker. And we talked about what we were doing. And then Bill had an idea. So maybe Bill, I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, so just talking to her and listening to what she was going through, I started to think back about the first experience I had at my first home. And when I was helping to clear that, the gentleman that was doing the clearing had me read Psalm 23 and just keep repeating it. Just keep reading it, keep repeating it, and it's something that I don't know if you see them read that in the movies, but anyway, a lot of people know what it is. It's usually the prayer that they say at a funeral or
The
something.
Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Yeah. So, with a lot of effort, I asked her, like, do you have a Bible? Yes. And she was telling us that the doctor's wife, I believe, was bringing her a French Bible because even though she could speak English, was pretty broken, and she could read it quite well, actually, but French being her first language, it was a little bit of a struggle. So we were trying to, when she got the Bible, we tried to get her to look up Psalm 23. So we pretty much had to spell it because it didn't translate for her. And trying to tell her Psalm 23, and she's looking on page 23. Aimée's got her looking through the index. So I'm looking it up on my phone, and I'm asking her, okay, what prayer do you see now? and she's telling me, and I'm like, okay, no, you have to go to the paragraph 23. So you're on 22. Now you just got to go to the next one. And I get her to start reading, and I'm like, okay, there you are. You have it. So if you read that, and she was struggling reading it because she's trying to translate it as she's reading it. So I started to read along with her. So we read through it, and then Aimée and I told her to continue to read it, continue to read it, if she felt she needed to, and while we got prepared to do the clearing. So yeah, Aimée, you can take it from there.
Yeah, so because she had been sitting up every night in a chair because she was afraid to go to bed and she was in pain, I said, okay, I want you to go she was going to sit in her chair again. And I said, no, I want you to go into your room and lie down in your bed. And I said, because the clearing's going to make you sleepy. Not only that, but it's going to clear you. It'll clear the room and clear your bed. So she agreed, and she brought the Bible with her to put beside her. And we told her what we would do because we couldn't do anything by video. And I had a recording of the experience, but I didn't want it to be garbled over the phone. So I said, what we'll do is we're just going to mute the phone. And then Bill and I will do the experience. It'll take half an hour. I'll come back on and let you know when we're done. And she said that was fine. And we could hear her sawing the logs. And I'm thinking, oh, good, she's finally getting some sleep. And then, Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes in, and we had heard her snoring, so we knew that she was out. But about 15 minutes in, we started hearing rustling paper, and I can hear this rustling paper, and I knew that she had the Bible somewhere close, and it's still a little bit of a mystery, but it sounded like pages flipping or somebody flipping through the Bible, and then the phone went dead. So May and I kind of looked at each other and like, oh no, but what's happened there, right? So we weren't really sure what to do at first. We thought maybe she was awake and then fumbled with the phone or something and turned the phone off. So the May called her back, and she answered the phone almost immediately. So we asked her, like, did you fall asleep? And she said, oh, maybe for a little bit. And I said, were you reading the Bible? And she said, no, my Bible was here beside me.
Yeah, that was weird.
And she didn't know how the phone had shut off. So we
Yeah.
don't know again. We weren't there, and we didn't have her on video. Usually we would have a smartphone so we could actually see what's going on. So anyway, so we started again. This time May left the sound on, so she could actually hear it. And it wasn't very long and she was out again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was for me quite a relief because I thought, okay, good, we're making progress here. So we let her know when we were done, and so I encouraged her to just, stay in bed and go to sleep because it was pretty late. We did this like Friday night. It was like 10:30, I think, by the time we were done. And she said, oh, she was going to read the Bible one more time. She had put something in it to remember where it was, and she was going to go and shut the TV off and then go to bed. So, and she had a few more questions about reading the Bible, and so that we let her go. And then the next day we were kind of busy all day, and then later in the afternoon, I decided to give her a call, and I couldn't get a hold of her. And I tried a few times, and I was starting to get a bit worried. Then finally, she gave us a call back around just after 6 o'clock, I think it was. And she was all chipper and happy. And she said she'd been out all day visiting, and it was
She
the
was at
best.
church most
Yeah,
of the day.
yeah, most of the day. And she said it was the best sleep she had had in an extremely long time.
But do you want me to tell you what they just showed me?
Sure.
when she kept going, when she kept passing out like that, going to sleep, there was actually a man, and I don't know if it's her husband that passed away or her father that's gone, that was right there with her during the whole thing, trying to help her through it.
Aw,
And he was turning the pages in the Bible.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah,
so
because
she,
I can see the Bible being, and I see the gentleman sitting there very calmly and just putting his hand out to make sure that she's okay. But he was helping her through the whole darn thing.
so
Aw,
she had told us the next day that she had asked for her father to be there
yes,
and
Okay.
her mother, I think.
yes.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
I was going to ask you about the pages turning because it wasn't like it didn't sound like she rolled over on the book.
No.
It sounded like pages turning. So I didn't know if it was the entity or what had happened, but that's nice to know that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't get it was the entity. I was a bit mystified because I didn't get negative energy. And the thing is, she told us it was a very big Bible because she had trouble flipping the pages and stuff.
Right.
Um, but she did say, I'd forgotten that part, Bill. She had said that she had called, she had talked to both her mom and her dad, of course, and she said, "Oh, of course, they're not here." Um, yeah, and then she kept saying to me, "You thank that man who helped me read that." And I said, "Bill, he's right here. You can thank him." And she was very, very grateful. And she had told everybody that she was visiting that she was getting help. I'm getting teary-eyed just saying this, but
From her two new angels.
two new angels. Yes.
See, Janet, if you had been there, you'd have been three, like
Three.
Charlie's angels.
Charlie's Angels.
Well, I know I am not an angel, so that I'm okay with that.
And then she said, and that lady too. Thank her.
Yes, she did say that. See, you were one of the angels.
Yes.
You got it
Well,
wrong.
Yeah. She
do you
was
see
very
my
good.
halo?
Yes, I see your halo. Our listeners can't, but we can say you have this beautiful golden halo. Anyway, so, you know, that was wild. I mean, I've dealt with some pretty nasty entities. I mean, I even did battle with some reptilians one time.
But it
But
was
I've
pretty cool.
never encountered that. Well, I kept saying that to Janet. I said, Janet, I know you think I'm weird, but I'm going, wow, this is super cool.
That's okay. I'm used to your kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry the woman's going through all this, but it's like
Oh,
super cool.
that's horrible that she had to go through
Oh,
it.
I know.
But, right now they're getting in their last minute attacks
Mhm.
because they're losing.
Yeah, they're losing.
So who are they going to go to? They're
The
going
weak
to
and the
go to
elderly.
the elderly. They're going to
Yeah.
go to the gifted. Anybody that they feel that's not strong enough that they could take over, right?
Well, what's so beautiful about this? This woman is 80 years old. She was so open with everyone. She told everyone. She told her doctor, she told the priest. She said, here's what's happened. And she was in tune enough to know that it was an entity that was attacking her. And she said, I know people think I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. I know that this is real. And she was open enough to be able to share that story and understand she wasn't crazy. She really literally was getting attacked.
And her
Exactly.
doctor didn't dismiss it either.
Yeah, which was
That's
really
The
nice.
cool.
doctor listened to her and said, continue doing what you're doing. And his wife was bringing her a French Bible. And,
Good.
so that was encouraging because a lot of times people would just go, you're crazy or you're making stuff up or you're hearing things or whatever. Right.
Well,
Exactly.
and then part of my concern was, I mean, I've never met this woman before, or I've just talked to her on the phone. And I mean, I'm picking up some of the stuff around her, and there is a bit of, slipping into, um, I don't know how to describe it. anyway, it's like it's real, the story's real, but then parts of it become, you forget that it's uh Janet, help me out. You can always do
What's
this,
her
Janet.
interpretation of it, I think. Is
Yeah.
that the word you're struggling
Well,
for?
that's part of it, but I mean, sometimes when we clear people, they'll get residual stuff from it because they're so used to being attacked that they think, oh, this ache or pain, that I'm still getting attacked because I have this ache or pain when it's just a physical ache or pain they have. Do you see what
Exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like a little bit of intermingling between the actual, and then I was a bit concerned that she was too attached to this energy and entity just because what did she say to us, Bill?
I didn't think she wanted to
Oh,
be attached to that entity. That's for
she
damn
said
sure.
something about, and she's a real farter.
We laughed so hard.
And she said it a couple times. So, I mean, I know from experience that you can feel things, but you can also smell things when it's
Yeah.
a negative entity. So, I mean, I guess that's what she was experiencing, but that was her interpretation. But you
Oh
can
my
imagine
God.
the poor lady with lack of sleep,
Yeah.
fatigue, stressed, scared, and she's in this apartment by herself, so she doesn't have somebody with her 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
just moved there
I think,
too. And one of the neighbors came to check on her, she said, because she was yelling at this thing, telling it to leave.
Wow.
she found
And
you at the right time.
yeah.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
and I mean, there's a couple, well, Janet can attest to it. I'm just shrugging my shoulders. In fact, when I talked to her on Friday, not Janet, but the client, I was like, I don't know what else I can do. I don't think I can do anything else. I'm like at a loss. Well, there's got to be someone. You got to find someone to help me. And I'm thinking, oh my God. I said, okay, I'll check with Janet again and see if she has any ideas and I'll let you know.
But even your experience, and you had forgotten because it's a recording, but near the end or midway, it started to talk about bloodletting or something, and then it started to talk about fallen angels.
Yeah,
So all
twice.
the everything
That
she
is
was
so
saying
cool.
Yeah.
came came right from the words of your experience after the fact, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I had just said to Janet, well, the only one I can think of is this one. And she said, yep, that's it. And I went, oh, okay. I wonder why. Well, it kind of connects
But it
because of the
made
blood
sense at the
piece. Yeah, but it
end.
made sense at the end because I think it was 2 or 3 times it was mentioned.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that.
hmm And
I
it was
love
just,
spirit.
Yeah,
well,
and
and the
this
other thing,
isn't somebody that's playing the victim or looking for sympathy or
Yeah.
anything. She's, it was a
No,
genuine desperate situation.
yeah.
exactly.
And even for you, Janet, like I just told you that she was in a lot of pain in her back, and you had no idea that she had said to me, it was like they're putting a needle in my back. And when you said that, I said, well, that's exactly what she described. And yeah, so yeah, and I guess so. The moral of the story is there must be a moral here somewhere or case solved, but I guess one thing
We
just
can't
to,
dismiss everything we
right.
hear.
No,
And
no.
that's a problem, I think, as people get older. Everybody just goes, "Oh, it's dementia,"
Mhm.
but
Oh,
like
they
you
want
said,
attention.
yeah, or like you had said before, May, it's they start to become more in tuned, right? As
Well, they're letting
any,
go of all the crap now,
yeah,
And so it's like they they feel things and they're seeing things and they have a better understanding. It's like, okay, I know that's not normal. I know that. And so their mind is more open to everything now.
Mhm.
I wonder if it's because maybe they start to forget or don't pay attention to what's going on around them, like politics and
Yeah.
all that stress. More like when you're a kid,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You
when you're
kind of
just
revert back to that, and you're more open minded.
Mhm.
Exactly. And you got to remember too, the veil is so thin now, right?
Mhm.
So they can pick up on those things a lot easier than they used to.
Yeah.
And she kept saying to me, I don't know if it was when, oh, maybe it was when you and I were talking to her, Janet. She kept saying, "Can she hear me? Can she hear what I'm saying?" And I said, "No, because they can't literally hear. They get the essence and the frequency of it because when they see us as light, like little, I don't know if you ever watched that show called The Good Place with Ted Danson and Kristen Bell.
Oh, a long, long time ago, I watched
Yeah.
that.
And I remember there was this one scene I'd fallen asleep. I think I was watching it with my kids or something, and I always fall asleep when I'm watching TV. And then I just woke up at this one point, and it was like he had this big map on the back of his wall behind his desk, and he's saying something around, this is, here's all the humans. It's all the light. All they see are the light. And some are brighter than others. I can't remember the exact thing. And I went, wow, that's a really good analogy. That's a perfect way to show how they see us. But yeah, and then we're moving into this. First, we had that 7 planet alignment. Now, on the 13th and 14th, we're going to have the 13th
New,
slash 14, depending on where you are,
yeah,
the lunar eclipse.
yep.
And
And new moon,
we're in this whole Pisces energy, which is very intuitive, very psychic. So I guess the message to everyone out there is just pay attention to what you're experiencing and feeling and running across, and don't be so quick to dismiss it. And yeah, if you feel something like this woman experienced, try to do some clearings, try to get some help. 12D Shield works really well. I couldn't give that to her because she had no way to play it.
Read Psalm
Um,
23.
Read Psalm 23. Yeah.
perfect,
Call the
perfect.
Ghostbusters, Bill and Aimée.
You know
There
what's
you go.
really odd is um, when I went through that year, and that was, I'm talking about 20, more, not quite 25 years ago, but more than 20 years ago. And I went through that experience, and we cleansed the house a couple times. I repeated that verse, I guess. I don't know how many times. And since then, I've done it as well. Even if I'm doing it in my head when May and I are doing a clearing, and I cannot remember the words to word. And there's not a lot of words. It's a very small verse, actually, or paragraph, whatever you want to call it. But I cannot recall that word for word. I have to actually read it, and I,
Mhm.
I don't know why.
Well,
Strange.
probably something is interfering. Oh, and I know what I was gonna add as well. Um, so yeah, it makes sense, Bill. You're trying to repeat it, but something's trying to stop you from remembering it, repeating it, right?
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
They'll put up a
also
block.
Um, we started listening on Sunday, I think, to Lisa Renee from Energetic Synthesis, her latest foundation call. And usually that foundation call ends up in one of her newsletters, like a lot of the material.
Right.
So I'll put in the episode notes a link to her site if people are interested. But in this one, she started talking about the power of prayer and how these entities are trying to stop people from meditating, um, from basically their ascension path and being, who they're meant to be here to be. Um, but how they are so active right now. And they're really trying everything they possibly can to take people down the wrong path or harm them either through attacks, energetic psychic attacks. And I don't want people to be afraid, but you also, information is power. So just use tools, find out how to clear yourself. Be careful where you're putting your energy and placing your energy. And she's also talking about the 12D shield and using that 12D shield to boundary test. Is this the right for me? So if you're doing anything, even if you're listening to meditations online or listening to podcasters, including, well, us, I guess if anybody, like within call, like have that shield in place and then ask, is this right for me? And pay attention. Because sometimes people go along with things because they really like it or enjoy it or think it's the in thing to be doing, but they're not paying any attention to how that's affecting them. And
Exactly. And, and if you really want to reach out and get help, get a hold of Aimée Clark at earthlightenergies.com, I believe. Or is it at gmail.org?
it's .org. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet. There's lots of
You're
people out
welcome.
there and there's lots of free clearings and stuff too. It's not just us that do it, but and when this woman was asking, I'm going, well, I don't know who else to even ask you. I said that I can't think of who does other stuff. I said the work we do is pretty specialized, but it doesn't mean we're the only people. I'll have to check around um, and see. Now I haven't checked in with her since we talked to her on Sunday. She did kind of hint that she'd like us to call her every night and check in.
Well, just thinking about her, I can pick up her energy. And from thinking of her, I feel like she's doing like really good. I feel like she's got a big smile on her face and she's doing well.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good to hear. You
that's good.
know, I just want to touch on one thing because it came up, and I know May and I talked about it. The fact that the priest came in and she told us she's a Catholic and attends church regularly, and always been Catholic her whole life. So anyway, she had a priest come in, and he couldn't help her, and that reminded me of, again, back in our own situation. I wasn't there, but my wife at the time had called me, and I said, well, you're Catholic and there's a Catholic church right there. The Catholic church backed right up to our backyard. I said, go and talk to the priest. So she did, and he came down, and it was a story and a half, so it was a loft. He made it about, I think, halfway up the stairs, and I don't know if something happened. Well, something obviously did happen. I don't know if he heard something or if something got thrown at him or what the deal was, but he wasn't very long. He wheeled and he was out of there and said, I can't help you. Out the door he went.
Wow.
So, and then May reminded me that just because they're, a minister or a priest doesn't mean that they're necessarily trained
Mhm.
in that aspect, right?
That's true.
He did what he could and he read from the Bible, but he knew it was out of his skill set.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that reminds me of that show we watched. I don't usually watch any supernatural, like spooky stories or horror stories, but we happened
Right.
across this show that Russell Crowe was in. What was it called, Bill? The
The Pope's
Pope's
Exorcist,
Exorcist.
based on true
If
facts.
True
Yes,
facts?
because there is an exorcist at the Vatican, and that he has an office, and that's what he does. That's all his job, just to go to exorcisms and spiritual um, entity takeovers and things like that. And he goes from one to another to another. He's busy all the time. And I had seen an interview with him, and it was fascinating the things that he goes through.
You'll want to watch the movie. I
Yeah,
mean, it is a movie, but don't kid yourself. What's happening in there is real.
is real.
Yeah.
And
And I
and
thought it was just like a story based
No.
but it turned out the guy that was they did this movie on was the
Right.
real guy, and he actually did write books.
Oh wow.
So it was a real man who it wasn't just a takeoff of the Pope's Exorcist. This was the actual guy, and he did write books about it, and so it was really fascinating. But
and
he
the
was
amount of exorcisms and clearing he had done was incredible.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah, highly recommended. It give you a better understanding of what's going on. Things
Yeah. And
mean,
he made a very interesting comment. He said he observed that, and I can't remember his exact words, but it was like, okay, so did these the need for these exorcisms um, increase because people were doing them and were
Right.
watching all of these um, horror movies and exorcism movies? So did that just bring more to the surface,
Absolutely.
or were they um, just or were they just people becoming more aware of it? So it was a really interesting thought process, because if you think about people who play with Ouija boards, like,
Yeah.
don't ever touch a Ouija board, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Didn't you have something happen with you, Bill, around that?
yeah. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think that's what
That was
started
kind
the
of,
whole thing.
yeah, that might have been what started the whole thing.
Yeah, so as soon as people start getting
Part of it.
interested, and I mean, I can attest to, I have you would have clients come in and they would just watch those paranormal shows and ghost stories all day long. And they'd come in and they would just have attachments all over them. And it's like, okay, they're not coming through the TV because you're watching it, but what you've done is you've lowered your frequency and showed your interest. So now they're coming in and you have no protection. So they're attached to your field, you're leaving them behind where you go. Yeah, it's yeah, very interesting. Well,
Nasty.
thank you, Janet and Bill. It was really interesting. It was great to have your help, and you especially, Janet. Well, you too, Bill, but I mean Janet especially, because I was ready to give up and just go, I can't help you, lady. But you
But
encouraged me to keep going.
if there's nothing we can do, then that's all we can say. There's nothing we can do. But at least we tried and we did the best that we could.
Yes,
And it
yes,
worked out great.
it did. So,
So it's
yes, and
awesome.
I just told her, just don't miss her too much and invite her back in. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway. And thank you, Bill, for all your hard work and your time.
Yes, no problem. I like to, it's nice to have a story like that. I mean, I know we do clearings and we help people quite often, but when you hear some elderly lady and her desperation, and you can tell in her voice, and she's almost in tears, and then she's so joyful after the fact, and
Mhm.
you know it makes a difference.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Well, Angel Janet and Angel Bill, we shall sign off for this episode. Case closed for the fallen angel, and we shall chat again soon.
All right.
Good night.
Ta-ta for now.